How's it going, everyone? This is a short video on how to use Excel to find a corresponding Z value or T value to a certain tail size of a standard normal distribution or a student T distribution. Okay, so you might need this for confidence intervals, for hypothesis testing. So I'll show you how to do that with Excel. All right, so a situation is okay, you have your standard normal distribution or your student T distribution, right? Symmetrical about Z equals 0 or T equals 0, and you have some tail size, right? Maybe it's a confidence interval situation, right? Maybe you're looking for a 95% confidence interval, so you have your middle section here, which has an area of 0.95. The entire area under the curve is 1, and so due to symmetry, the size of this tail is going to be half of what remains, which is going to be 0.05 over 2 or 0.025. And you want to know, okay, well, what's the Z value on the Z axis here that represents that cutoff for this tail, or what's the T value, right? If this is the T axis rather than the Z axis, right? So for maybe you're using a Z table or a T table, right? So on a Z table, you would just look up this probability right here, 0.025, right? So you look it up, there's your 0.025 or whatever's closest to it, and that corresponds to a Z value of negative 1.9, right? That's based on this column here, and second decimal point of 6, right? So your Z value is negative 1.96, right? So this would be negative 1.96, and so based on symmetry, here would be a positive 1.96, and so for a confidence interval, for example, that's the value you would use. If it's a T table, well, then you need your degrees of freedom. Okay, let's say your degrees of freedom is 20, okay? So you go to your T table, you have your tail size, 0.025, right? You match that up with the correct degrees of freedom, right? So it'll be in this column for tail size 0.025, and there's your 20 degrees of freedom, right? So your T value, 2.068, right? So T value 2.068, or due to symmetry here would be negative 2.068. Now, the issue with that is, well, sometimes the Z table you're using, the T table you're using, might not have the tail size you want, okay? And in that situation, right, you can just use Excel, right? Or maybe you want something more accurate than approximating, using the closest value. Okay, so for Excel, these are the two functions that exist. Okay, so using the, say you're using the student T distribution, okay, you would say equals T.inv, okay, open bracket, and first it asks for the probability, which is the size of your tail, often called alpha, right? In our case, 0.025. And then you want the degrees of freedom. And in our example here, we use 20 degrees of freedom, and you hit enter, and here it gives you negative 2.086, right? And what did we have? We had 2.086. I think I just wrote that a little backwards, right? Let me check that. 20 degrees of freedom, yeah, 2.086, right? 2.086 corresponds to a tail size of 0.025, 2.086. Let me just fix that here quickly. Got the 6 and the 8 backwards. 2.086. Another reason, right, to use Excel is that machines won't accidentally write two numbers in the opposite direction most of the time. Okay, so there's our 2.086. Excel will return the negative value, which corresponds to, right, the lower cutoff here, the lower tail. Based on what the application is, you'll have to figure out, do you need the negative or the positive value? And for the the standard normal distribution, okay, it's a little bit of a different formula. So you have NORM, stands for normal, .inv. So instead of t.inv, it's norm.inv. And then the first thing you put in the brackets again is that tail size, 0.025. And then it asks for mean value and standard deviation. So because this is the standard normal distribution, your mean value is 0 and your standard deviation is 1. Close the brackets, and there's our negative 1.9 and so on. It rounds to negative 1.96, which is exactly what we have here, right? Negative 1.96. So that is how you use Excel to find these values, and good reason to use Excel as well, right? You might not have the exact values you're looking for on the Z table or the T table, and you might want to double check, right, a value that you calculated by hand, right? For example, if you wrote the 2 decimal places numbers in reverse, right? There's a good reason right there to double check answers using Excel, or to just use Excel to begin with, maybe because you need it part of a spreadsheet. So I hope that was helpful, and until next time, enjoy.